December 8, 1980. Manhattan's Upper West Side, dusk. John Lennon's final hours unfold beneath the archway of the Dakota, a sense of routine soon to be shattered forever. Globally celebrated, John Lennon had settled into a quieter life with Yoko Ono and their son. Music, artwork, and time as a father defined his days in New York. In stark contrast, Mark David Chapman arrived in the city that week, carrying a revolver and a fixation, targeting Lennon for what he perceived as hypocrisy. Chapman's obsession brewed over months, fueled by Salinger's The Catcher in the Rye and Lennon's lyrics about peace versus possessions. He saw Lennon as a phony. In late October, Chapman bought a .38 special revolver in Hawaii, contacting authorities for advice on transporting it to New York. The weapon was intended for only one purpose. On December 8th, Chapman spent hours outside the Dakota. He blended in among waiting fans, showing no violent intent or suspicious behavior to passers-by or building staff. That morning, Lennon left the Dakota unobserved by Chapman, a near miss that signaled nothing to those around. Chapman missed his first opportunity, distracted in conversation. Later, Chapman encountered the Lennon's nanny and young Sean Lennon. He quoted Lennon's own lyrics, complimented the boy, and behaved politely, never revealing his intent. Inside, Annie Leibovitz conducted a Rolling Stone photo shoot, her camera capturing what would become the last professional images of the couple shortly before fate intervened. As the afternoon unfolded, Lennon gave his final interview. Outside, Chapman remained inconspicuous, hours slipping by with no disturbance or warning for anyone on the scene. 5 p.m. The Lennons emerged from the building, heading to the record plant. Among the fans, Chapman quietly approached Lennon, asking for an autograph on Double Fantasy. Lennon, as always, obliged, chatting politely, signing the album, and posing for a photograph. Chapman gave no sign of malice or instability to Lennon or the onlookers. Paul Goresh, another fan, captured this eerie moment. Lennon signing the album for his future killer, a photograph haunting in hindsight, but unremarkable in the moment. Afterward, Chapman watched the Lennons depart for the studio. For nearly 6 hours, he continued waiting outside the building, interacting politely with other fans and staff, betraying nothing alarming. In the studio, Lennon and Ono mixed Walking on Thin Ice, unaware that outside, Chapman's plans remained unchanged. No security warnings reached the Dakota or their team. Returning to the Dakota after 10:50 p.m., the Lennons chose to leave their limousine on the street, forgoing the added security of the internal driveway, an everyday decision with fatal consequences. Yoko Ono walked ahead. Chapman nodded courteously as she passed. Lennon followed, cassettes in hand, passing Chapman with a brief glance, perhaps recognizing him from earlier. Seconds later, Chapman drew his revolver and fired 5 shots at Lennon's back. Accounts differ on whether Chapman called to Lennon. Most evidence suggests he did not. 4 bullets struck Lennon, causing mortal wounds. Bleeding heavily, Lennon staggered into the lobby, shouting, "I'm shot! I'm shot!" before collapsing, scattering his tapes. Doorman Jose Perdomo bravely disarmed Chapman, kicking the revolver away. Chapman made no attempt to flee. Instead, he calmly removed his coat and began reading The Catcher in the Rye. Inside, Jay Hastings attempted to save Lennon, creating a tourniquet, then covering his chest with his jacket. But the wounds were catastrophic. No first aid could succeed. Police arrived within 2 minutes, immediately handcuffing Chapman, who remained eerily calm. He apologized for disrupting their night, then offered no resistance, making the arrest almost surreal. Meanwhile, Officer Moran and Bill Gamble rushed Lennon by squad car to Roosevelt Hospital, bypassing the ambulance system in hopes of saving precious seconds. At the hospital, doctors fought to revive Lennon, conducting emergency surgery, heart massage, and blood transfusion. The injuries were simply too severe to overcome. 11:15 p.m. John Lennon was pronounced dead on arrival, the clock marking the close of a musical era and the beginning of worldwide shock and grief. Yoko Ono, learning of her husband's death, requested the news be withheld until she could tell Sean. Despite her plea, the story broke almost immediately. That night, Howard Cosell broke the news live during Monday Night Football. Audiences across America and the world were stunned by the abrupt announcement. Back at the Dakota, officers interrogated Chapman. Over hours of questioning, it became clear his actions had been methodically planned. No evidence pointed to help from anyone else. The world responded in collective mourning, candlelit vigils, 10 minutes of silence, and more than 200,000 people gathering near Central Park, the tragedy giving way to tribute. Lennon's remains were cremated the next day, his ashes scattered in Central Park. Chapman was transferred to Bellevue for psychiatric evaluation, silent and composed. Across his trial, Chapman pled guilty, defying his legal team's advice to use an insanity defense. The court heard passages from The Catcher in the Rye as his explanation. Chapman's sentencing concluded with 20 years to life, possibility of parole now repeatedly denied. He remains incarcerated to this day, his act chillingly void of remorse until years later. For Ono, the years that followed brought trauma, art, and activism. She shaped memorials like Strawberry Fields and released the album Season of Glass with Lennon's blood-splattered glasses as the cover. The question of prevention lingered over every tribute and retrospective. Did anyone miss a warning? Security professionals, friends, and fans found nothing glaring to signal the coming attack. No one that day, not a single doorman, fan, or even Lennon himself, recognized Chapman's plan. He was calm, polite, and offered no threat until the very last second. In the years since, the Dakota became an emblem of both tragedy and remembrance. Security now heightened, but the pain of that night still resonates with fans and survivors. Ultimately, Lennon's murder is a story of obsession, meticulously hidden until the very last moment. Almost no one who met Chapman that day questioned his presence or his intentions. The question lingers, could Mark David Chapman have been stopped before he fired? No strong evidence suggests his intentions were known or reasonably suspected until it was too late. John Lennon's legacy outlives that violent night. But the seconds before the gunfire remain a case study in the chilling obscurity of human intent and the frailty of our best plans. For decades, fans and experts have asked if fate could have bent a different way that night. But the evidence is stark. Chapman gave the world almost nothing to warn them. John Lennon's final walk beneath the Dakota's archway is now eternally etched in history, a moment when the unimaginable became real and prevention became a question with no certain answer.